floor is over. Okay, if there is one signal that China should be taking away from the current global financial crisis, it is that it was very lucky for a very long time to be the world's factory for as long as it was. But being the world's factory on a planet that's increasingly concerned about sustainability, in a place where we've got aging markets, where people are less excited about consumption and much more excited about conservation, the numbers are against China betting on manufacturing for supporting double-digit growth for the foreseeable future. It's just not going to happen. That's reason number one. Reason number two is there's no way that you can continue to drive employment with manufacturing. The onus is on China not to produce more, but to produce better. And that's coming both from the market and from policymakers. Policymakers say, we want to move up the value chain. You don't move up the value chain by hiring more people to do more of the same basic menial labor. You do it by making products that are better designed. And that means you're hiring smart people, not lots of people. And that also means that the manufacturing process has to go more to automation. Factor three, China's actually running out of laborers. Yes, we have a country that is loaded with people. We've got nothing but population. But interestingly enough, we are running out of a pool of people who are willing to migrate and work under the old circumstances of factory labor. It's getting more expensive because workers can demand greater compensation. Because, it was the old John F. Kennedy thing, give me your best and your brightest, send them to me for 2 years, I'll work their butts off night and day, I'll pay them well, burn them out, and send them home, and then send me your next set of best and brightest, right? That's where Neil Sheehan got that quote, by the way. The Chinese factory owners have been doing that continuously now. The demographic trends are now starting to work against them as well, because we've got that big fat rat moving through the snake, right? Where we've got a whole bunch of young people. Where back when Tony Blair first came to China in 1998, he was telling everybody, or 1997, he was telling everybody, this is the youngest country in the world, and it's cool and it's exciting. It's not that young anymore. It's getting older, okay? And that means you've got less and less people who are able, physically or mentally, to work for 16 hours a day, even when they're being compensated for overtime. So manufacturing is not the answer to China's challenges, and it is certainly not the answer to driving growth. What does that leave us? The next logical step. China's time has come to move into services. I think they're starting to realize it, but I also think that they realize that they can't say that too loud. Because the minute China starts saying, we're becoming a service economy, imagine what's going to happen in Europe and North America. With all these countries that have said, they've just got their people used to the idea we don't need to be a manufacturing economy anymore because we have services. And now all of a sudden China comes into the service industry. Everyone in all these service businesses are going to say, oh great, now we don't have manufacturing, now we're going to lose services too? Look, it's not going to be that serious, okay? There are still going to be profound and growing service industries in North America, in Europe, and all the developed economies. But China is going to start moving very heavily into the provision of services. What kind of services? I think obviously there's an opportunity still to do back office stuff. India, the Philippines, they've done a terrific job, with being the global call centers and customer service, and they've helped perfect those industries in a way that, we can transparently deliver these services to English speakers around the world. But what we're starting to see is those back office services for Asia and for North Asia transitioning into China. What do I mean by that? SAP, about 6 years ago, opened a service center for all of its corporate clients in Northeast Asia, South Korea, not too many in North Korea, Japan, and China. And they have a huge number of new licensees. So there's an awful lot of need to provide those services. They opened it in Dalian. What genius! Because you open a service center for North Asia in Dalian, what you have is you've got a lot of Korean speakers, both native and otherwise. You've got a lot of Japanese speakers, both native and otherwise. So it's very easy to service those markets. We have such a profound diversity of cultures here in China that we can, logically, service all of Asia's service needs, with the possible exception of India and Pakistan and other South Asian countries. But anything basically that's east of India can be serviced right out of China. Not so much, I would say, the English-speaking cultures. I think you'd have a hard time servicing some of those, but certainly the Chinese-speaking cultures and any of the third language-speaking cultures can all be serviced right out of China. That'll be step one. I also believe, though, that customer-facing is a huge opportunity for China. If you come to Beijing or to Shanghai and you stay in some of the hotels, you are going to be spoiled for service, okay? Chinese enterprises are really starting to understand what it takes to deliver service. Western companies have been a huge help in that process. When you look at where China is in the hotel business, you have to thank the people at Intercontinental Hotels, formerly Six Continents, formerly Holiday Inns Worldwide. They were the guys who really laid the groundwork of China's hospitality industry. Something quite similar is happening in aviation. China wants to have the best airlines in the world. They want to be able to compete with Singapore Airlines, Virgin Atlantic, and ANA. They want to have that service cachet. And certainly at the front of the plane, inside of China, you can see a huge change in service. And it's gradually working its way to the back of the aircraft. We have great services. They're going to start taking over a lot of these trans-Pacific routes. So that's another area. Third area, banking and financial services. People talk about brand China going overseas and they think, well, let's look at the Li Nings, let's look at the Haiers. Actually, I don't think China's step overseas in business is going to be led by manufactured goods, either white goods or stuff people wear. Where it's going to happen is in banking. It's going to happen in things like aviation and hospitality, where they can actually make a difference, where they can say, we're going to apply our standards and we're going to bring them to you because the fact of the matter is our service standards are superior to yours. I would rather bank at a Chinese bank than any bank in the United States. How strange is that? Okay, how non-intuitive is that? So those are the industries that I think are coming. What I think we need to do about this as Western companies is not to try to overcome, but to adapt. Yes, Asian level service is coming to the U.S. What is it that we can do, particularly in these times of recession, all right, to start rethinking our own organizations and to start saying, how is it that we can actually play on Chinese terms? If you can bring a service business to China and win, you can win anywhere with the same level of service. When I was back in the States over the summer, I noticed in specific companies, they're really starting to get the service mentality down at the delivery level. The one place where I really saw it happening, if I have to name names, was at Marriott. Okay, Marriott is a company that is getting deeper into China. For a long time it was not, but it is getting deeper into the company here. So what happened with Marriott, though, is I think that they've started to take an Asian level of service and bring it to the United States. An Asian service mentality is migrating back into the United States. Marriott is an excellent example. How can you emulate that? The other thing is, if you have Chinese companies who are service companies who aspire to go overseas, how do you partner with that? How do you join it? Because so many of us see the Chinese as competition. In reality, they are in desperate need of help trying to figure out these markets, and there's a huge opportunity in helping them do so. So learn from them, emulate them, bring their levels of services back, but also partner with them because there are tremendous opportunities. That's what's exciting to me about consumer services. So you've got the business-to-business side, and you've also got the consumer side, and that's what's going to drive the next stage of China's growth and development. I think, if you ask, are they welcome here? China's going through a different phase when it comes to welcoming foreign investment. You are now no longer welcome simply because you're a foreigner. You now have to, more than ever before, prove that there is a crying need for your business in China and that you offer something that a Chinese company cannot. So, in terms of, is the door open? I can't make a general yes or no statement. Here's the question. What do you offer that's different? There is a growing need. There is a need for Chinese businesses to become more efficient. Some Chinese companies that have been leading this economy are some of the least efficient companies in the world in terms of production per labor input, in terms of production per capital input. And that, in China's next phase of development, absolutely must change. Here's the question, how are they going to do it? Are they simply going to manage their businesses better? Or are they going to recognize that they have to go through this whole re-engineering process that we went through in the West, where non-core functions, quote-unquote non-core functions, are moved out? Here's the problem. I don't think we have a generation of Chinese business leaders who are comfortable taking vital organs and outsourcing them. There's going to be a while before that happens yet. At the same time, I also think that there's been a bit of a rethink in the West about how is it that we can relook at these internal functions and say that they are not non-core, but that we can actually rework them internally in a way that becomes a competitive advantage for us. So, to a certain extent, the outsourcing of business-to-business services is going through a very difficult phase right now. The Chinese haven't figured it out. The Westerners are going through a rethink. And so it's difficult to go to a Western multinational here and say, hey, we can do your this and that for cheaper. There are exceptions. Travel is a notable exception. American Express travel-related services has done a profound job here, working with companies, some of the biggest multinationals, as a matter of fact, to say to them, look, you don't need to keep your travel desk in-house anymore. We can take that over and we can do it more efficiently. And they've been able to do that. One of the reasons they've been able to do that is because now it makes sense to have good relationships with the airlines and with the hotels, and companies don't have time to do that nonsense anymore. The companies that have been here long enough where they're looking at costs, or the companies that are just coming over here and are trying to be cost efficient, are looking at business-to-business services. But you have to be aware of who they are, and you have to work carefully with them. And you've got to be prepared to say and to demonstrate we're either number one or number two in the business, and we know China. So there's an upfront effort required. Rockwell, for example, has this company, or there's a company, a Rockwell company, that not the guys that make pieces for airplanes, but the guys who do the call centers. They had to struggle for years here, but they are just at the point where folks are starting to trust them, and they do. And so people are saying, yeah, okay, we can outsource this call center. They're also starting to understand that, for example, online services, okay, are essential. There is a change that's taking place in the thinking around certain types of services. Very interesting thing just happened the other day, okay? Adidas, who has built its market share here based on opening counters at department stores, on opening now flagship stores in the major cities, has started to realize something very interesting. They don't want to be in the retail business. They want to design shoes, they want to design clothing, they want to deliver it to as many people in China as they can. They want to go online. Adidas has just begun a major e-commerce initiative working alongside of the Taobao division of Alibaba. They're going to set up a complete online Adidas store where you can buy anything Adidas that you want and have it delivered to you within 24 hours, any place in China. Okay? What an interesting model. They're not alone. There will be others and other brands who will join them quickly. Why does that make sense? Because it's the only way to reach a dispersed market. If you offer a luxury good in this country, you can't just open a store in Shanghai and say, hey, everybody's going to come to Shanghai and buy stuff. You got to be there. And luxury isn't just Louis Vuitton. Luxury is Adidas and Nike. Okay, when you look at how much these things cost versus how much disposable income there is. So those types of services where you're providing an entire back-end solution to an entirely new line of business, that companies are going to be interested in. Oh, what? You mean I can now sell to 400 million people online and I don't have to invest a penny up front? Yeah, I'm down with that. Those types of services look to grow tremendously.